part. So it's just a
Okay.
little bit of time and we'll get it.
All right. Well, and but again, yeah, I would go back now and send them an email or a text or a voicemail and say, hey, we left it maybe up in the air and I probably wasn't firm enough as to what the clear next step would be. Would it make sense we have a conversation next week? Something to kind of go back. I mean, under attack, go back. You can always go back to these steps. That's the idea of understanding the 7-step system. If you screw up and you're at the end, you can always go back to one of the steps, whether it's bond report, whether it's an upfront contract, you can always go back. All right, so here's today's session. Today's session is, again, staying with the effective questioning strategies. That has a lot to do with the pain step, but again, at all steps, we're asking a lot of questions, whether it be at the upfront contract, the pain, the budget decision, fulfillment, we're doing a lot of questions. I don't know if any of you have ever seen, is anybody old enough to have seen the movie Glengarry Glen Ross? Yes, no? Maybe you've seen the skit that Saturday Night Live did, where in the movie Glengarry Glen Ross, he put up on the board, the sales manager put up on the board the ABCs of sell. Anybody know what the ABCs of selling? No?
Always be closing.
Always be closing, right? Well, I believe that it's always be questioning. That's really what I think it should be. Always be questioning, because the client knows when you're trying to close them, but they don't know when you're doing questions. So if any of you have ever taken Judo before, Judo actually stands for Ju is gentle and Do is way. So in a gentle way, what we want to do is change the flow of energy or information. So that's what this session is about, how to use what I call sales judo, all right, to change the flow of information or change the flow of energy in a conversation with somebody. For example, if a client says to you, and I'm sure some of you get this when we're trying to cold call or somebody, hey, can you mail me some information? Now, if you think about that, a salesperson, here's what a salesperson does. Oh my God, they're interested. They want me to send them some information. When actually what they're really saying is, I don't have time for this. Maybe I can get you off the phone by saying, send me some information. And it's going to go in that round circular file in the corner of their office, actually the garbage can. So what you want to do is when somebody says, can you mail me some information? Remember, what you want to do is you want to go ahead and do the stroke and then disarm them. All right. Remember, we always stroke. The stroke is the nurturing parent, the gentle way. We always do a stroke. The stroke is, hey, I'd be happy to mail you some information. And they're like, oh, I thought they were going to fight me on this one a little bit. Because have you ever heard this one from a salesperson? Oh, I hated it in training. Can you mail me some information? I'd love to, but I don't fit in the mailbox. Yeah, that kind of, yeah. Or I'd love to, but it's 300 pounds, if I sold you everything. And those little quibbits like that are not really funny. Remember, that's the natural child coming out, say something funny, everybody. So go ahead. Hey, I'd be happy to mail you some information. Repeat again. So you'd like me to mail you some information? Yeah, I would. You know what? I have a 50-page product feature ebook that I can email you. And then reverse it. But I want to ensure that I only send you the most relevant piece of information. So you're stroking them, you're in a gentle way, and I'd love to send you some information. I have a 50-page booklet, an e-booklet that I can send you, but I really want to ensure that I only send you the most relevant piece of information. All right. Can you tell me, are you more interested in X, Y, or Z? You put in there what it is. Like with me, if somebody says, mail me some information, love to mail you some information. And I have a lot of different things I can send you. I can send you all the copies of my curriculum, my PowerPoints, and all the different things. But I'm just curious, are you more interested in a program that helps your people, gain new prospects? Or do you have plenty of prospects? They're just struggling to close them, or it's none of those issues at all. It's more that you're looking for some management tips on how to manage your people. Can you tell me of those three, which one is the most important to you? So you can give somebody some pain in this one by saying, are you more into this X, Y, or Z? Because you've dealt with these types of things before. So you want to know typically what are the three things your clients are looking for? And now you usually get, well, I'm more interested in this. A guy last week, same thing. I'm more interested in management. My sales guys are doing really good. I'm more interested in the backroom stuff, a little bit of management, and some customer care. We need some more customer care training. Okay. This was the guy that first said, mail me something. And then I redirected him. You go, I'm really surprised you'd say that. I would have thought you would have said you're really struggling with prospecting. See, these are all techniques to stay in a gentle way to get pain because people are motivated to action by the intensity of their pain. The pain, you're not trying to sell them on your product over the phone. You're trying to sell them on an appointment. And they're not going to have an appointment with you unless they have some pain. And if you just called somebody out of the blue, they probably don't have any pain. You've got to spend some time talking about why there'd be a reason for them to meet with you. And instead of telling them, let me tell you why you should meet with me. Oh, I deal with companies like you all the time and they have this problem, again, that's not a very gentle way. In judo, the idea is you're laying them down in a gentle way by asking them questions. And again, the redirect is once they tell you, I'm more interested in this Z, I'm surprised you would have said that. It's kind of like when somebody says to me, you know what, Wayne, I might be interested in what you have. I appreciate that. But probably not enough that you'd want to have an appointment. See, they weren't expecting that. I might be interested in what you have. Why don't you mail me something? I appreciate that. You might be interested, is what you're saying, but it probably not enough that you'd want to really devote a 10-minute conversation specifically to some of your challenges, would you? Now what they have to do is they have to defend their position as why they said I might be interested. All right. So then you finish with, would it make sense for me to send you information and then give you some time to review it? Okay. Because most sales guys are pushing for something. Pull them away from it. I'll send it to you today. How much time do you going to need to review it? Are you going on vacation? Going to be out of town? Whatever. Great. Why don't you do this? Why don't you look at your calendar? Pick a day next week other than Monday for us to get together, answer the questions you think of, and then we'll go over all the information. So you have to, it's kind of like same thing when you're leaving a message with somebody, a voicemail message. You have to have a really specific call of action. You can't say to somebody, hey, Rob, call me back. This is Wayne. Call me back this afternoon at 2:30. I'm going to be in my office from 2:30 to 3:30, and then I'm leaving after that to go, if I run an appointment or whatever. Give them a specific call to action because, again, if you don't do that, call me back. They think, well, I'm going to call you back. It's going to be a voicemail. It's going to be, we're going to play tag. Be specific in your call to action. So reversing is the change of flow of information. That's what I want you to think about reversing. Think of it as water flowing. You're just trying to reverse the flow of information. And this is the thing, it's called the negative reverse clock. The negative reverse clock, if you think about a clock, and I have to remember when I do this training to too many people, younger people, they don't even look at a clock, the bottom of a clock, everything's digital or whatever. But if you think about a clock, 6 o'clock is neutral. And if you think of a pendulum hanging neutral, objects at rest tend to stay at rest, right? Unless acted by an equal or opposite force. And if you think about 3 o'clock, this is somebody over in the 3 o'clock position, they're sold. This is fantastic. Somebody at 4 o'clock, they're enthusiastic. Hey, I'm probably interested. This sounds really good. 5 is, well, I might be interested. 6 is, they're not going to go anywhere. 7 is, I'm not interested at all. 7, 8, it's they're really hostile. I'm sick of hearing it from you salespeople. I'm just tired of getting half my day is answering sales calls. 9, it's over. Click. Think about where prospects are on the reverse clock. So if you have somebody who's at 6 o'clock, that person is most people, salespeople try and push them over to the 4 or 5, 3 o'clock area with benefits and features. Right. Let me tell you why we're the latest, greatest, most improved. We've got this, we've got that. And they try and push them over that way. All right. What you need to do is think about it. You can't sell anyone who's in the neutral position, anybody who's apathetic. You can't sell anyone who doesn't care. But if you think about objects that are at rest tend to stay at rest unless acted on by an equal, or opposite force, equal or opposite. So if you think about apply the laws of physics to sales, what you're thinking of is, oh, instead of pushing somebody with my positive and benefits and features, man, if they're neutral, saying, yeah, sounds like this isn't a big deal. Sounds like this isn't something you want to devote some time to. Help me understand. I'm just confused. Why might that be? Why would you not even be interested in increasing, stay neutral with them or even go disinterested? Yeah, I kind of thought when I'd call you that, getting an appointment with you, creating an appointment out of thin air probably wasn't going to work. Hostile. Yeah, I get it. I understand those salespeople really annoy us. I get them too. So I'm just curious. Um, Last time you did buy from a salesperson, how did they take you from being disinterested to interested? What did that person do? Stay a little bit behind the ball is what I'm saying. Anybody remember those kinetic balls where you take the one and you let it go and it knocks three and then the last one moves? Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. You've seen those kind of things. That's what you have to think about. When you pull somebody back to the negative and you let them go, they have to swing back to the positive. Remember in school, also two positive equal a negative. So I know it's a little bit contrary to what we think about, but I want you to picture this in your mind all the time as to where your prospect is along this line here in this clock. And if you pull them away, even if they're enthusiastic, I don't say you have to go really negative, but don't go so positive. But if they're enthusiastic, say, hey, I appreciate that you're interested, but I'm still curious as to why you're interested. Tell me more about why you even have some interest and might move over into the sold range. So you're still a little positive, but you're not, oh man, I'm glad you're enthusiastic about it. I'll write the contract up. I'll send it out to you today. And then it sits there in their inbox and they don't do anything about it. So think about it this way. We defend where we are. If you say to somebody, you need our new product, the client will fight back and say, no, I don't. I don't need this. I'm perfectly happy with what I have. Okay. But if the process says we're really happy with our current vendor, and you say, yeah, do a stroke, I appreciate that. You probably hold your current vendor in high esteem, just like our clients view us. And well, yeah, okay, reverse. And you probably never had a problem with your current vendor with like lead time or price fluctuations or service. So when you put it that way, instead of saying, oh, they've probably screwed you in the past, or they probably did this, and you try and create pain, they're going to defend themselves saying, no, we don't have a problem. But if you put it in hey, and you probably had never problem with them for this, this, and this. And even if they say, well, yeah, we had a problem with the service, we had delivery was probably one time back orders were, getting to be a problem for us. But I'm sure they took care of you. So remember, that's the opposite of what they expected you to do. So again, you can be that way where you sit there. Now the person has to defend it and go, well, no, they're not the way we hoped they did. They raised the prices and didn't deliver the product on time. Now they said it, not you. These are all judo techniques in the sales arena to get the client to tap out instead of you. Okay. You must present yourself like an advisor, not a marketing rep. And I hope you had time to watch the Danny DeVito slide or picture that I sent you. If you have not done it, please do. I will send that out. When I send the PowerPoint, you'll have this link to it. But if anybody saw that, it really struck real home with me. So please go watch it. He talks about, hey, you really have to understand your product. You need to take the time to have a conversation with them, not an interrogation. You need to have a conversation with them, and using these gentle ways with the stroke, repeat, reverse can help you stay in that. And again, the mind is a wonderful, fantastic thing. You hear all these things I say, and then you get in front of a client and you forget them. I understand that. So, but having a system helps you refer back to it. So one of the things I want you to remember is this acronym FROM. When you're having conversations with people, I want you to think about it this way. Talk about their family. Hey, help me understand the impact that this issue might be having on you and your family. Talk about what it is that they do for recreation. What's important to them? What do you do to, boy, it sounds like you're on a lot of stress trying to do this, this, or this. What do you do to kind of recharge your battery? What do you do for recreation? How long have you been with the company? How long have you been doing this? This man, you've really been building up a really good dot 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 dot. How long have you been doing that? And then what's the overall mission that you have as a person? What do you hope to accomplish? That acronym from just helps you remember to have conversations with this person, because people buy from people, not from companies. And I'll tell you guys, one of the again, sometimes I use my own experiences, and I apologize for that, but I started my career in college, going around to college campuses. I worked with the Muscular Dystrophy Association as their national youth coordinator. My job was to go to all the different campuses, get the sororities, fraternities to put on dance marathons. I visited 50 different campuses, and I got them to do, I raised $36 million for charity. And I remember Jerry Lewis, who started the Muscular Dystrophy Association, taught me one day, he says, Wayne, people give to Jerry's kids. People give to people, not to causes. And I said, what do you mean by that? And he says, well, there are only about 600,000 people with muscular dystrophy, Duchenne's dystrophy, ALS. There's only about 600,000, but I mean, it's a severe disease. There are 20 million people that have diabetes. Who is the executive director or the national spokesperson for juvenile diabetes? And it was Mary Tyler Moore from Dick Van Dyke fame and the Mary Tyler Moore show. Mary Tyler Moore. He says, so there's 20 million people that have diabetes. Number one cause of hardening of the arteries, third leading cause of death by disease. It's a terrible disease, but muscular dystrophy raised 3 times more money. And he says, why do you think that is? Why do you think we raise 3 times? If people give to causes, isn't juvenile diabetes a more worthy cause? But the number of people are affected by it. He says, people give to Jerry's Kids. We created the Jerry's Kids campaign. So on every 7-Eleven, there's a canister, give to Jerry's Kids. We put a kid in a wheelchair. He said, because people give to causes. And the same thing in business. People give to people, not to companies. People big because they like and trust you. Yes, and they trust you because maybe you have a good product and you did a good job of representing your product and how it can solve the pain they have, but they still give to you. So instead of thinking about always be closing, always be bonding. And the best way to be bonding with somebody is by asking them questions about themselves. By the way, does anybody know what the most important word is to anybody in the English language? Rob, do you know?
Their name.
See, that's why I used his name. Yep, their name. How often do you guys repeat their names in front of them? Because throughout this conversation, when you ask a question, hey, Rob, can I ask you a question? Bob, is it okay if I do this? That's what people love to hear. Now you're having a conversation with somebody one-on-one, and people give to people. So remember this acronym, talk about their family, talk about recreation, talk about occupation, and talk about the overall mission as to what it is that that person is trying to accomplish. Because now when you get into solving their problem at a price they can afford, they're more willing to accept what you're saying because they're buying from you, not the company. So think of it this way. Your job is to solve the prospect's problem without having to use your product or service. If you think about it, a trusted advisor, if I am not selling you sales training, but I'm just advising you on which sales training might be best for you, whether Zig Ziglar, Anthony Pernelli, Tony Robbins, Action Coach, One Coach, whatever, and I'm just an advisor. I don't have a product to sell. I can talk about your pain. I can talk about your problem without you thinking, well, he's only doing that to try and sell me something. All right. And if you come across as a trusted advisor, then when it gets to the point when you have a product or service, now the conversation is more real because you've had a conversation about their real problems and the real pains without immediately jumping ahead to why your product or service is the greatest thing. Come across as a trusted advisor. That's why I sent you that clip of Danny DeVito in that movie talking about don't be a marketing rep, become their friend. Because you can't do these questionings. A lot of people come to me and say, hey, Wayne, you keep saying asking questions, it becomes annoying. No, you can hold a sign up and say, I'm doing it to you after a while, as long as you do the stroke, repeat, reverse, as long as it's a conversation, not an interrogation. So it does take practice. So If you think about it, if you're selling machines to somebody, what machines you have now that different from the manufacturers and why? You know, if it's 20% faster, that would help you how? Have you tried to retrofit it to even speed it up? Instead of buying new equipment, have you just tried to retrofit the equipment that you have now? See, that's what a trusted advisor would ask, but a salesperson wouldn't want to do that. A salesperson wouldn't ask that question because they're afraid the person, well, yeah, we might do that. And then I wouldn't be able to make a sale. Have you asked them, the manufacturer, how to speed it up? Have you tried even better maintenance for it? Those are the kind of questions you might if you're selling a machine. See how that acts? Those are questions that a trusted advisor would ask, but not necessarily a salesman. Selling advertisement. Have you tried different dates to advertise? Have you tried different colors, different focuses? When do you use direct mail and radio? You know, and then, you know, why not? Why haven't you tried any of these things? And let the client say, well, I don't believe in radio, or I did radio years ago and I spent tons of money and it takes too long to build up a, you know, an identity on whatever it is. Let them say it. Which sounds better if you're selling the car? You know, I can get you a great deal on a better car than when you have drive now. Or, you know, your car looks great. Probably no reason to get a new one. Now, if you go back a couple of the slides, remember the person's going to defend where they're at. Your car looks great. Probably no reason to get another. Yeah, but the mileage sucks or this or that. And I just traded in a new car and got an electric car. There was nothing wrong with the car I had, but my garage was already wired with a 240 outlet in it. I'm thinking, well, as long as it's there, maybe I should get an electric car. And if the person started to trash the car I already had, oh yeah, you time to trade it in. I would not have trusted him because there was nothing wrong with that car. It's just that I just wanted some other pain to be solved. So again, are we asking the right questions? All right. So how do you do it? Well, week one, what I want you to do is practice on things you don't care about with people you don't know. People that you meet on the street, somebody you go to a convenience store, the cashier, you have a conversation with them. Just practice doing a negative reverse on them right now. Like, boy, you know, boy, this is probably a really tough job. This job is probably a lot harder than you anticipated when you came in. You got nothing to lose. It just gets you into doing the opposite type of question. Hi, how are you today? Just try something different. Week two, ask for double what you think and see if it passes the giggle test. Like you go to check into a hotel and they tell you the rack rate is $120. Say, I don't suppose you can give me the for half price, can you? I don't suppose you can give me a $60 room rate. And was that the kind of thing you'd giggle at asking for that much? I mean, what do you got to lose to ask? Get used to asking difficult questions again when you don't have anything to lose or with people that really you're not going to lose a sale over. What happens is I give you these techniques. You go out in the field and you try them on a prospect and then you didn't do the exact same way. You forgot the stroke, did the questioning, and then you come back to me, wait, I lost the sale because I tried your technique. Well, go practice it. Go practice it. You know, we would never, if I'm your coach and I'm teaching you a 3-2 zone, I wouldn't wait till the game to add a timeout in the fourth quarter, say, hey, here, let's try this. You guys go down in the box, you do this. No, we practice the zone and I train you on it during practice. And then I coach you through the implementation of what I trained you on in the real world. So go out and practice some of this stuff. Week three, repeat week two activities. Keep trying practicing some of this stuff. Week four, start doing a little bit more negative reverses with suspects you don't care about. You get that suspect that you know on the phone, this person is just trying to steal all your free consulting. They probably are going to go with somebody else. They give you a hard time. And I mean, I had a guy the other day say to me, oh, I just knew I wasn't going to sell that guy. So I hung up on him. I go, really? You had a live body? Why didn't you play with them? Even if you, as soon as you decided you probably wouldn't sell them, that would have been a time for you to practice your negative reverse as far as you can go.
Actually, it'd be really good for me to practice on my 9-year-old grandson.
Why is he the kind of kid that just will say the opposite of whatever you want him to say or something?
Hey, I don't know, but he's very verbal, and so that's probably
Good.
a place to start. Yeah,
It is. Yeah. I think what happens is, again, we don't think about your meter's not always running. Instead of thinking about how can I continually sharpen my axe or my sales techniques. So when you're out there in the real world and you're talking to somebody, I went to the bank earlier this morning to get some cash And the cashier said, well, how would you like that? I asked for $100. And I said, I appreciate you asking me that. I'd like 5 20s and a 10. She went, what? Just to practice, seeing if I can do something to, to do a pattern interrupt the pattern. All right. So there's I'm going to send you this. I didn't send you this link, but let me explain this link. Has anybody seen the movie? It's an older movie, but again, a lot of movies are really good entertainment for learning. The Tin Men, about guys selling aluminum siding in the 60s. Anybody ever seen that movie? Oh, you're going to love this clip. So let me paraphrase it for you. Jack Lemmon and Richard Dreyfuss are the 2 stars in the movies. They're selling aluminum siding. So they do this one technique where they go up, they take their camera on a tripod, they set it up in front of the house, and they just start pretending like they're taking pictures of this lady's house. She looks out the window and sees these guys in her front yard taking pictures. And she comes out and says, what are you guys doing? She says, oh, we're taking pictures. We're with Life magazine. We're taking pictures for an article we're doing on the benefits of aluminum siding. And she says, well, why are you taking a picture of my house? Because we needed a before picture. We want a picture of a house without aluminum siding, the kind of before, and then we're going to have a picture of this house next door that's got all the aluminum, how much better it looks with aluminum siding. She says, I don't want my house to be in the before picture. And she says, well, anything I can do? Well, I suppose you could talk to one of our salespeople and they could talk about you if you want to be the after picture. So they scheduled an appointment with her. Now, again, it's a negative reverse. The opposite, instead of walking, hey, would you like to have aluminum siding? So go watch the clip. It's kind of funny to see how but as you watch it, you'll see them doing all these negative reverses with her. A negative reverse. And sometimes watching an example of a really over-the-top negative reverse kind of helps you with yours. I would never say do what was unethical, but it's a negative reverse. So sales judo is about taking that prospect and taking them in a different way, changing the flow of information and understanding resistance or opposition to the force or influence or movement without thought. That's the reaction. Okay. It protects the prospect, but at the same time gets to the truth. That's why you do the stroke, repeat, reverse. Remember, judo, gentle way. You must use negative reverse because no one likes to be sold. Nobody likes to be told, let me tell you what your problem is. Let me, when you tell somebody what their problem is, they will fight you because their reaction to it will be the resistance and saying, no, that's not big of a problem. So if, again, I said last week, if you're telling, you're not selling. If you tell somebody what their problem is, they will defend their current position. But if you use sales judo, hey, I'm confused, not sure why you'd even want to look at my product or service. Why do you need to do this? Doesn't seem like that's a problem. Now they will defend the position the opposite way and tell you why it's a problem. So now to really use negative reverse, you have to have a full pipeline of prospects. A lot of sales reps, the reason they won't try some of my techniques is they don't want to try them and lose at the beginning. They'll say, well, maybe I don't know enough yet. And if I try some of these techs, I'll lose the prospect. But if you're a millionaire, think about it this way, and you're doing the job you're in currently for fun because you just like doing it, wouldn't you act a little bit differently? If it wasn't tied into the success, you're still going to have enough money, you're going to be rich at the end of the day. Would you hesitate to try a lot of these techniques? You wouldn't. So the video that I have up here that I'll send you the link to also, it's the from the first night with Richard Gere, where he's Sir Lancelot, and he's talking to a guy that wants to learn how to be a swordsman as good as he is. And the character says to the student, says, well, you have to be willing to study your opponent, to understand even the moves he's going to do before he even does them. I can do that. You need to really practice. You need to spend time doing it. You need to spend the time to get better at your craft. Hours. I can do that, he says, the other guy says, and you have to be willing to die. You have to be willing to, and most salespeople aren't willing to die. They're not willing to get a no. They can't handle the rejection. They're not going to try some of these things because they're afraid somebody might say no. That's why I laid out the 4-week step. You got to go practice this stuff, negative reverse. When your spouse says to you, your partner says to you, hey, what do you want to have for dinner tonight? Well, if I said I didn't want to have fish, would you understand? Or, well, my wife does this to me. She's celiac. So when I say to her, what do you want to have for dinner? Well, I don't care, honey, anything you want. The negative reverse is, yeah, but anything I want probably not going to fit within your dietary restrictions. Why don't you tell me what it is that you really would hope and I'd say that I want it for dinner to see if it matches what you're looking for? So stay in that flow of asking questions, but can be leading people to what it is that you want. So remember Emerson's law of compensation. If you haven't read it, it is actually, just Google it. You can get anything you want from life if you help others get what they want. That's Emerson's law of compensation. So think about it that way. Sales is, again, my definition of sales is just influencing people to a mutually beneficial decision. Your job is to help that prospect get what they want. That is your mindset. Your mindset can't be, my goal is to go out and sell them. Because that just puts you in a different phrase. It puts you in with every other salesperson. My job is to help you get what you want. And for you to understand what it is that you want, I'm going to have to ask a lot of questions. And then in your mind say, hey, sometimes the negative reverse or the opposite. Again, negative reverse sometimes gets my students to think that you have to be snotty, you have to be, that kind of negative. I'm not saying that. Just negative reverse is just the opposite of what they expected. And that helps them tell you what they really want. So last slide, and I need group participation in here. All right. So unmute yourselves. And I'm going to say, I want somebody to say right now, if prospect says to you, okay, are you working with any of our competitors? How would you do a reverse on that one? And if I don't get a volunteer, I'll call on somebody. Rob, go ahead. You volunteered, jump in first.
Yeah, you're saying,
I want to hear a stroke repeat reverse to when I said to you, hey, Rob, are you working with any of our competitors already? Are you selling pipe drive to any of my competitors?
well, that's a great question, Wayne. Why do you ask?
Because I don't want you to pay you money and then you're already helping my competitors. And so they're going to, get a better contract with one of my leads already, and you've trained them.
Oh, it's legitimate concern. I understand. Tell me a little more about that.
I don't want to spend money hiring you. I want to kind of like exclusivity. I want to make sure that I'm not paying you and then you're turning around and giving the same benefits to one of my competitors, which puts me at a disadvantage.
I understand that. I wouldn't want to do that either, Wayne. But I work with the manufacturing industry on a regular basis. How could I help you feel better about that?
Okay, so you're staying. Here's what's happening. I'm negative. You're staying positive.
Yeah.
Remember that clock? Go back to the clock.
Yeah.
I'm being negative. I'm kind of, where am I in the clock?
Okay. You're
7 o'clock, kind of 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I probably should have gone, well, I do work with other manufacturers. Are we done?
Could be. Yeah. Now I got to defend myself. Well, I didn't say that, Rob. No, I didn't say that. I just want to know if you're working with anybody else.
Well, the answer is, yeah, I am. I understand your concern, but
let me try it this way. That's a great question. Let's pretend I am. Is that going to stop us from working together?
Right. Which is
now
what
I've got to defend my position. Now I got to sit there and it's going to stop this. I'm not going to, it's going back and forth. Is that going to stop us? And I'm going to, and if in worst case scenario, I'm going to say, yeah. All right. Then I reverse you again, Rob. For me to give you exclusivity, what do you think I'd ask for in return? If I was you're the only person in your industry that I work with, what do you think I'd need in return?
I can't do that, but
well, but I mean, you don't have to do it. You don't have, but
money. It'd have to be money. Right?
Yeah, I'd probably. Yeah. So is that possibility that I charge you to make up whatever I'd lose in income from not selling potential customers in your industry? Would you even want to have that conversation?
No.
Right. Probably be too much.
Yeah, it would be.
I'm confused. Where do we go from here?
Yeah.
Now you can do, are we done?
Yeah. Okay. I went to, are we done too quickly?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. You went too quick. You can have a couple, the rule of three, you do 3 reverses before you give up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. Deborah, you get this one.
Oh,
We might be interested. Or Mark might get it. So what do you do when you get those? I'm sure you get them. Let's talk first about what you used to say and what you'll say now.
well, now you caught me off guard, so I'm not going to say what I
Okay.
used to say. Might be interested. Why'd you say might?
That's great. Well, I mean, I didn't want to commit 100%. I'm kind of interested.
So kind of sometimes is a little bit of an easy way to say no. Is that kind of where you're heading?
Good. Good. How many of you get this one? Raise your hand. You don't have to say. Anybody get this one? We might be interested and hear those kind of things at all early in the process.
I get
Here's
that.
here's a great technique I want you to try on that one. We might be interested. I really appreciate that, but probably not enough that you'd want to have an appointment, want me to send you the contract. That's the way you do that one. We might be interested. You know, as much as great as that sounds, and as excited as other salespeople might get when they hear that, I'm getting the feeling that it's probably not, you're not interested enough that you want to go to the next step, would you? See, it's a little negative, a little different than what they thought, but now it calls them to action. Probably not interested enough to go to the next step. You know, I've had people say, you know, I might be in a sales training. Tell me more. I appreciate that you might be, but probably not enough that you'd want to come in and sit in one of my trainings. You'd want to come to my class on for Thursday. Now they got to do something with that. Instead of, we might be, oh man, that's great. Excited. Look, can I send you some information? You know, stay away on that one. All right. Anybody else want to pick one? I'll let you pick one. The next person volunteers, you pick one and give me the reverse to it. Those of you who hadn't.
What about the already talking to one of your competitors? And
Okay.
it could be, well, that's great. So does that mean you don't want to talk to me then?
No, I didn't say that, but I just, so again, why are they telling you that?
Probably pitting us to one against each other.
It's remember we did in the negotiations, a source of leverage is what they're trying to gain. They're trying to get leverage. That if I say I'm working with one of your competitors, you'll be on your heels and start discounting. So you could do a negative reverse. You can sit there and say, I appreciate that. You're talking to one of my competitors. I'm just curious, off the record, why are you talking to me? How come you haven't already pulled the trigger and gone with them? See, again, you're staying behind the 8 ball. You're staying behind it instead of getting in front of them. What they hope you do is say, oh, let me tell you why I'm better than them. I'm buying an airplane for an engine for the airplane. And I talked to this guy up in Idaho, and I did it to him. He's represents Yamaha. And I said, well, I'm talking to one of your competitors. I'm talking to the guy over at Aero Momentum Engine. And first thing he says, oh, you don't want to go with them. That engine's this, and this, and starts trashing them. Okay. Now, I have already decided because of that conversation, I will not do business with this guy because he immediately trashed the competition and told me that I'm an idiot for even thinking about going with them. Now, I'm sure he's thinking his engine is safer. He's telling me that their engine has got the motor mouth's got cracks in it, that kind of stuff. But again, instead of saying, I appreciate that, Wayne, Aero Momentum's a good engine. Any reason you didn't already buy from them? And the reason is, well, I'm hoping that I can get a better price. I'm hoping that I can pit 2 big competitors against each other. So I hope what you're getting out to everybody is, you know, don't immediately respond to the question, sales judo. Think about how can I lay them down softly, but reverse them and change the flow of information. Your job is to get information, not give it. Good one, Deborah. Thank you. Anybody else want to pick one and go forward that hasn't played yet?
I can do, what does it cost?
Okay.
I get that one a lot about like how much does a website cost? How much does a logo cost?
I've never heard that before.
I
I
would say that is
question.
a great question. It it's definitely an investment. What do you think it costs?
I don't know. That's why I'm talking to you.
What are you expecting to pay for a logo?
There you go. So you got to put in a question format that requires me to do something with it.
Yeah.
So negative reverse sounds like, what is it called? Wow, that's a great question. Probably a lot more than you were expecting. Yeah, help me. Can you share with me in round numbers what it is that you were expecting? Remember, round numbers isn't threatening. It's not asking specifically what their budget is. And
Yeah.
again, be careful to ask somebody what their budget is, because there's a lot of people, when you say budget, they're like an accountant and they think like a line item, and they don't have anything in their budget, in their forecast. They never even budgeted for it. So when you say, so what were you budgeting for? They're going to say nothing. We don't have a budget for this. So instead you do I appreciate that. Great question. I get that's the number one question I get. I'm just curious, off the record, what were you expecting it was going to take to fix some of these challenges issues we were talking about? And in round numbers only, please. Whatever you want. So yeah, that's the one that a lot of people get. What does it cost? That just remember this: when a client early in the process asks you about price, it's because they don't know what else to ask you about. They don't know what to ask you about the benefits or services that you provide. So this is not the time to answer that question, because you really, seriously, you don't have enough information. And again, it sounds like most people, when they answer that question, Janelle, they'll go, well, I can't answer that yet. Or, God, you can get as low as $500 to $3,000. They give them a wide range. That can happen later. At the beginning, let's see if they will give us their expectations or
Yeah,
not.
I mean, I fell into that where somebody asked me how much, a website costs, and just through the conversation I had said what a typical website costs, but but then I caveated it with, but I haven't seen your website. I don't know how big it is, blah, blah, blah. And then obviously by the time I got to the estimate, it was practically double what I had said. And they brought that up. They're like, well, that's a lot more than you said at the beginning. And so I got beamed on that one because
Any
I
reason you
told
did it?
them because I told them how much a typical website would cost, and I didn't wait and not say anything until I actually did see their website so that I could just,
Yeah. Well, again, I've said it to certain last week. One of my clients says sometimes your prospects are better at their system than we are at ours, and early in the process. So what do you just get to it? What does it cost for such and such? And it's difficult for me to answer. I'm just curious. What's the number that is just so high you'd hang up on me immediately? Right? I mean,
Yeah.
or in this situation is, that's a great question. What'd you pay for the other website you have now?
Well, that's a good one.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if they already have a website, they've got some idea of what a website costs, don't they?
Yeah.
Any reason you didn't go back to the current provider to upgrade your website? Stay with the current vendor you're with? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Deborah, Rob, and Janelle, thanks for playing full out. Anybody else want to jump in here and grab one of these?
So for the, are you familiar with our industry question? You could say, that's a good question. It's smart to want to work with someone that's well versed in your industry. What gives you the impression that I'm not familiar with it?
Yeah. Again, you stayed behind the 8 ball. That's good. I actually had one of these. I had Jardine filtration plant in downtown Chicago, where they take in the water from Lake Michigan. And the guy goes, so are you current with working with a water distribution plant before? And I had never. So that's a great question. I'm curious, is it really important that I work with a water distribution plant, or just understand, have I worked with anybody that has some of the problems and challenges that you are working with? Because isn't that the most important? Do they really care whether I'm working with somebody that does water distribution or that I've experienced the same type of management problems and challenges that they have? And that's, so again, the average salesperson would have said, no, but, and they start throwing benefits and features. So good, Tyler. That was a good one. Anybody else? One more? One more and I'll let you out of here. Well, somebody's got to volunteer.
Somebody speak up. I want to go to the playground.
Let's do the how quickly can you convert our current program?
Okay.
I'd say that's a very good question and probably something you should be asking. It may take some time. How long would be too long that this deal would already be dead or something like that? Like
No.
how long would be too long?
It's a good one. Yeah. Yeah. Because again, how you answer the question could be wrong. And not if you'd answer, well, it's going to take us 6 months. You know, how quickly can you convert our current program? It's a great question. Probably not as fast as you were hoping for. Why? What were you hoping for? If you haven't used the word probably a lot, remember, this is one of those words we get to use as a fat word. They can. As soon as we hear them say it, we reverse, but we get to say it, you know. And then you might even follow it. How quickly can we convert our current program? Well, we were hoping 3 months. Really? Any reason you didn't ask for 2? Again, a reverse that they didn't expect. You can do it that fast? Well, suppose I said I probably can't do it in 2. That'd be really difficult with our current backload of clients we're already working with, but I can get you into 3. That would be important to you because, again, if you haven't heard me say this before, you get to use the word because 3 times as the end of your sentence, because 3 times in a conversation before it becomes annoying. So you can say, you know, I can't convert and I can't do it in 3 months. But if I could, that would be important to you because, and let them tell you what the pain, oh, because I just need this by, spring practice, or I need this by, the time that I'm hiring new coaches, whatever it is in your world, guys, Josh. But I think that people need to give you information. And again, I struggle as a trainer sometimes getting concepts across. People so much worry about the actual technique as opposed to thinking about what's the concept Wayne is trying to get across to me, and then how can I put it in my own words. So the concept I'm trying to get across to you is, again, your job is to get information, not give it, until you're ready for it at the presentation stage. You will do a much better presentation if you do a much better job of fully understanding the client up front first, instead of rushing to presentation. And you do it by doing the sales judo, the questioning strategies, all these different things to change the flow of information. From most salespeople, again, think that my job is to go out there, pitch, present, show them what I got, benefits and features, dog and pony show. Your job is to gather as much information as you can about this unique challenges and pains that this person has, so that when you do get to the presentation, your presentation is just so overwhelmingly designed to solve their price problem at a price they can afford that you don't have to close them. Wouldn't it be great that you don't have to close? You don't have to overcome stalls and objections. Wouldn't sales be so much more fun? It is if you do the job and the steps up front. All right. So again, your job is to give information, not give it. You want to get information so that you can disqualify the clients and don't have time, money, and effort. And 2, you can find out reasons to do business. But with our system, you get the client to tell you why they should do business instead of you telling them. So that summarizes what we were trying to accomplish today. What we were trying to accomplish today is get you to understand at the beginning, your job is to get information by asking questions, doing the sales judo technique, disqualify people. Your job is, they don't get your presentation unless they have pain and money to fix the pain and reasons to do business. If you don't like the word pain, I always like to say reasons to do business. So, all right. Statements, questions, comments, yeah, buts? No?
I think it feels more natural to give information, and that's why it's so hard to ask the questions and gather it.
It's a paradigm shift. You know, a paradigm is a mistaken belief in an old identity. And the old identity to most salespeople is to present, pitch, benefits, and features. And so the paradigm shift I'm trying to get you is, and I'm not saying we're not going to do benefits and features. Benefits and features are important, but it's important when you do them. And they're done at the sixth step, after you've done the bond report, after you've done the upfront contract, after you've reviewed pain, after you've done their budget decision. Once you have those 5 steps out of the way, then yes, benefits and features, how your feature of your product can solve their problem at a price they can afford. If you reverse them and do benefit, you know, bond report, and then, oh, let me show you what I got. By the way, do you have any money? That's where most salespeople fail. But again, most salespeople had some limited success doing it that way. And again, it's like in baseball, if you're a 300 hitter, you're a superstar. But in sales, we don't want to be a 300 hitter. We want to be like a quarterback with a 70% completion ratio. Is what we're trying to accomplish by doing a different technique. So I get it. I appreciate you saying that, Deborah. That's good. It has become natural. We've done it the other way. I mean, how many of us went to any formalized sales training before you're in the position you are now? Nobody. You learned it through osmosis. So you just did what all other salespeople did to you, you do to your clients. So until you go through, you know, if I had students in high school and college that were going to marketing and I gave them my system, I wouldn't have to break them of the old habits. They'd be so much better. So it takes a while. That's why ongoing training through reinforcement. That's why we do this weekly instead of just sending you to a 2-day boot camp and then think you got it.
Yeah, and
It takes a while.
the other thing that I found from experience is you start doing your presentation and you're doing it from what's in your head, what you think is important. And then you find out that wasn't important for them at all. In fact, I did it yesterday. I answered a question that I shouldn't have been answering to a prospect. And I kicked myself when I got off the phone. But when you're doing a presentation and you're talking about something that's not at all, they don't give a poop about it. You know, they care about something totally different. And you didn't find out up front.
Yeah, but even though you made that mistake, you're probably going to sell them anyway, aren't you?
I hope. I've really goofed up on this one. I'm hearing your voice going, what am I doing? I'm a high I.
And that's why I have a coach too, because I find myself, as I said before, the mind is a wonderful, fantastic thing until you get in front of a prospect. Yeah. And all this stuff goes out. Yeah. I hope you'll start practicing it on people you don't care about, on items or things that you aren't going to lose anything over. So just go practice.
Dinner tonight, everyone's going to ask, and I'm going to say, oh, what were you thinking?
Yeah, there you go.
Not anything that I wanted.
Perfect. That's a perfect example of how to practice this on your own. So
yeah, you're at the dinner table and they say, hey, pass the potatoes. And you go, well, that's a good idea. You know, why do you want the potatoes?
Wouldn't you want to put the green beans on first?
There you go.
Just practice it and it'll help you a lot in it. And if there's any of you that want to role play it with me, feel free to call me and say, hey, Wayne, I got this client. Before I go there, can we role play these things? I love to role play with you. Sometimes it's easier to one-on-one than it is in a group because, again, sometimes we're afraid how other people are going to judge us, but don't worry about that. Give me a holler and we'll role play it. All right, this is going to be posted. Here's what I want you to do. Go back and watch a couple of these hyperlinks that I'm going to put in this slide. We learn best in our adaptive child state. Our adaptive child state is great when we're watching movies. I do a whole training. I'll get to one of these days, the power of sales through movies, where I put a bunch of clips of different movies that go through. I also have a training where I do each step of our system in songs, like bond and rapport and songs. I want to hold your hand and all those kind of, I take songs that match every step of the system, like in the money step, money, chicks for free, all the Dire Straits music. And it just helps people remember the steps through music or from video. So watch the videos when I send it. Again, it takes me a while for the recording to be converted. I'll post it on the website. I'll send you this PowerPoint. I'll send you the link, but give me a rest of the day, probably do that. All right, everybody cool?
Thanks, Wayne.
All right, like they used to say in Hill Street Blues, be careful out there.
Yeah, everybody.